Greetings, everybody. I'm here to do another video, kind of follow up. It's Saturday, the 18th of July, 2026. I trust that you are all well and that you are enjoying this lovely weekend. It's a bit cool and cloudy and overcast here, but I trust that wherever you are having a good time. I'd like you to like these videos of mine and to share them, as you know, because by liking and sharing, you make it possible for the algorithm to extend that more people get the opportunity to view these videos. I'm going to call this video Centuries of Lies number 2. I'm saying number 2 because I have done a video on the 5th of June 2026, which was entitled Centuries of Lies 1. And in that video, I talked about the lie about Jesus Christ, his appearance, for centuries given a European image everywhere, and it was basically a huge lie, or is, let's say is, because it is still promoted as that is the appearance of Jesus Christ. Today I'm going to continue with these lies that are more recent perhaps. One of those that, it's disturbing in a sense, is the moon landing in the 1960s. I think it was 1969 or 1967 that it was claimed that the first man was landed on the moon. And one of the things that proved that is actually error or a lie is the fact that the president of the USA at the time, Richard Nixon, picked up the phone and found Neil Armstrong, I think it was, who was the first man to set foot on the moon, allegedly, or claimed to be. And the question is then, how is it possible at the time when we didn't even have that advanced technology to be able to talk to somebody that's so many thousands of kilometers away on the moon as if he's talking to somebody down the street on the phone? Today we have WhatsApp, where you can be in Japan or in Russia or the remote islands elsewhere in the Pacific, and you can speak to the person on WhatsApp as if it's not so far away, and we know it's thousands of kilometers away. But at the time, we did not have that. So that is a huge lie. And it is actually a marvel, like I mentioned in the previous video, how gullible we all were. We believed what we were told, and we marveled at these wonders. Yet we can now, I would say, I marvel at the level of gullibility that we had then. Another point to debunk that event was that the craft that landed on the moon was a very flimsy looking contraption. Very flimsy. It looked almost like a high school project. And we would wonder now, how is it possible that such a contraption could land on the moon from the spaceship or the craft that took them to the moon? Then the question would be also, that contraption wasn't left on the moon. It had to take them back to the craft. And the craft that actually landed in the sea with them when they returned was of a size that landing craft on the moon could never fit into that capsule that returned to the earth. So all of these things were in our face, and yet we were so gullible. We believed it as, marvelous, wonderful discoveries and events. it didn't happen. Several people have actually been proving that it took place in a film studio somewhere on Earth, probably in Hollywood. Another question what we would ask also is that when Neil Armstrong allegedly stepped on the moon and saying the words "one step for mankind," etc., the person, or how is it possible that those photos and videos could be taken from that vantage? In other words, if you look at the photos and the videos, it's as if somebody is standing on the moon already and aiming the camera at Neil Armstrong coming down that ladder. Again, we were very gullible. We didn't ask questions as to how is that possible that a camera could be in that position. Now, what was the motivation for all of these lies? You know, at that time, America was involved in a conflict or competition with the USSR, which is basically Russia today. It was called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics at the time, and they were involved in a Cold War. In other words, a war that you don't shoot at each other and fire at each other. It's actually a form of, you're doing things to show your dominance in the world and to be a deterrent for any action from the enemy. So they were involved in this, and they were so desperate to win the space race, which is part of the competition and dominance that they wanted, that they concocted this story, this plan, to put a man on the moon to be the first, so that the world can see that they are number one, that they have preeminence. And so that was in response to the fact that the USSR had put a craft into space with a monkey in it. I think was called Sputnik. And it's a form of desperation that the Americans had, that they had to show that they are winning. And with the result is they went off into telling lies of that nature. Now, of course, there'll be thousands of people that will want to challenge this point I'm making, but I'm saying it, and several people have been saying it already, that the lies are being revealed, being exposed, and it's going to be exposed even more. Another lie that we've been living with for quite a long time is what we refer to in Egyptology. In Egyptology, we had researchers and Egyptologists who claimed that the damaged statues, like for instance the Sphinx in Giza, and elsewhere, like Queen Hatshepsut and those places in Aswan, the south of Egypt, where the monuments are, you'll find that many of the statues' noses have been damaged. And the people that wrote books from Egyptology claimed that it was as a result of revenge. The previous rulers were damaged so that they do not go to the afterlife, because if you damage, this is what the belief was, that if you damage the face of a ruler, that person could not go into the afterlife as they desired. But in actual fact, that's a lie, because it's been found out that the European colonialists, when they came into Africa, and especially into Egypt, and saw these monuments, these statues had the appearance of African features. And one way to destroy that image is to damage the nose, because we all know that Africans have a certain kind of nose and certain shape of lips. And that is the purpose of it. In fact, one of the first things that Napoleon Bonaparte, after the French Revolution, was a ruler and a military leader that went into Egypt. The first things he did was to use his artillery and to shoot off the nose of the Sphinx. and of course the damage to these statues took place from there. So that's another lie. And then a further lie I'd like to just bring up to you is the fact that, you know, your maps that we've been receiving in schools when we learned map work and geography are actually inaccurate. The shape of Africa is made smaller than what it actually is. And it's accepted as a lie because, accepted as a truth because everybody's learned it and we see it in all the images, even in the news and everywhere. And these maps are showing Africa smaller than what it really is. In fact, Africa is one of the biggest continents. It compares with Asia. It compares with Asia, and that also just indicates this form of telling lies. Another last one on this of Africa is that, you know, the United Nations that's seated in New York, all the nations supposed to be represented there because it says it's United Nations, but Africa has 54 countries, but there's no representation for Africa on the United Nations. The Security Council excludes Africa, which is a big group of nations, and people see this as normal. The prejudice, the bias, the racism is very eminent, very clear. So these 3 points I wanted to share with you in terms of lies. You know, people will ask the question then, you know, what is the purpose of telling these lies? Surely it can't be true. But let me just end off by giving you or reminding you of that scripture in John 8, verse 44. I'll read it for you. It says, "You belong to your father." This is Jesus Christ talking here to these people. "The devil, and you want to carry out your father's desire. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Yet because I tell you the truth, you do not believe me." So the part that I just want to highlight here is especially when it says here in 17, "When he lies, he speaks his native language, for he is a liar and the father of lies." So people who don't know the extent of evil don't really realize that it's a huge part of human existence, telling these huge lies, and the purpose is for the devil to have his power over humanity. So I just want to end off there and leaving you with something to contemplate and to reflect on, and to wish you a wonderful, beautiful weekend.